Hey MOMnation, it is Katie here, and I hope you are all having an absolutely lovely morning. Why don't we talk real estate, shall we? So I'm going to be here live for as long as you guys have questions. Well, that could be all day. Okay, so not as long as you guys have questions, but for a little while. So if you had any burning questions about real estate, about either getting into the business yourself or buying, selling, anything like that, now is the time to ask me. So ask away. I'm gonna roll through just a couple of tips and just a little bit of information that I thought was awesome and wanted to share with you all to keep in mind for 2020. So I'll start with that. I also have a couple of questions that people have sent to me just via private message. Hey Brittany, we'll roll with those too. And again, just ask away. If anybody has anything burning, go ahead and type it into the comment bar and we'll get to those for you. So just wanted to start by talking about interest rates. So if you guys don't know, our interest rates are super low right now. And that really plays into affordability. So if interest rates go up even a point, that really makes a big difference in your monthly payment and also your debt to income ratio. So you're basically buying less home if the interest rates go up. Even a half a point, it could really push somebody over that limit that they can't get the house that they want. So I want you guys to really pay attention to that this year. Right now, the rates are great, like I said. This is a quote from our lender, Ryan Gilliam with Waterstone Mortgage, from a couple of days ago. He's a licensed loan officer and has to quote the APRs, but I'm just gonna give you guys the rates. They're all under 4%, which is like amazing. And I've heard it through the grapevine that we should keep an eye on this because they will be kicking up and probably happening by this summer or maybe even before that. So again, if you're in the market and you're like, well, gee, should I wait for spring or should I wait for summer? You might want to take a look at things now while they're still affordable. So for your 30-year fixed FHA, you're right around 3 3/4, so under that 4% mark, which is amazing. Your 15 year is going to be 3 1/4. A 30-year fixed is 3.875, and your 15-year fixed is going to be 3.375. So really good information to know there. I can't tell you how much it plays into affordability. I can't tell you how many people have cried on my shoulder because they waited too long and rates went up a good chunk or even a small chunk, and now they're pushed out of the ball game. So keep an eye on that. Also, this is kind of a little trivia question. Does anybody know here in the Valley, of course, real estate is cyclical, so kind of like the same sort of patterns happen year after year. So does anybody know when it is most active, when we sell the most homes? Anybody? Raise your hand. I see Mrs. Armour is on. She knows. Jen, do you know? Anybody have a guess? So I have a graphic for you, and I'll post the graphic in the comment section once I'm done here. I attempted to go on Zoom so that I could share my screen with you and show you the graphic, but unfortunately Zoom is not my friend today, but that's okay. It's in the springtime. Lacey, very close, very, very close. So I'll post the graphic and you're gonna see sales start to tick up like around March, April, May, June, and then you'll see how it kind of drops off a little bit going toward July and August. So that is your time. A lot of times our closings are in July and August, but those went under contract in the June month. So June is extremely busy. I don't sleep from about beginning of May until about the end of July, seriously, every year. So keep that in mind when buying and selling. Obviously, when selling, you want to sell at that time. And when buying, you want to buy now. Because, yeah, the inventory levels are a little bit lower right now. It's a thing. It's a thing across the country, I believe. But your interest rates really, really make a big difference. So keep that in mind, guys. I'm pretty excited. I did come across this article on Phoenix Business Journal, and I was really, really excited for Arizona because out of the nation's top 50 new communities, Arizona had 8 on the list. And where's my new build ninja? She's gonna be really, really excited about this one, Jen Duncan. She lives in Eastmark. She lives and breathes Eastmark, you guys. So if you want to know anything about that particular area, Jen Duncan's your girl. She's also with Team Evo AZ. She works with me. Eastmark was number 5. So for the top 50 new communities across the country, Eastmark was 5. Isn't that insane, you guys? And then the West Side is really, really, on the map now. So you West Side girls, you guys are making a big comeback, man. Verrado and Buckeye, Tartesso and Buckeye, Meadows and Peoria, Estrella and Goodyear, Meridian and Queen Creek, so back over to the east side, Vistancia and Peoria, and Cadence at Gateway came in at number 43. So we had 8 communities. I was shocked. I love it. This is going to come up in some trivia questions in the group in the future. So you all that are watching, you're going to have a little jump on this. I thought this was absolutely fascinating information. And I've been doing this for 13 years, you guys. I have actually just pulled my numbers, and I have overseen for my team or participated in transactions myself 865 times. So that's a lot. So that's a lot of experience. I've overseen a lot of different things, transactions, things like that. And this is information that blew me away. So it's going to blow you guys away, I think. So speaking in terms of production, like for the year, like how much have we sold year over year, comparing 2018 to 2019. And this is just single family properties. I thought it was really interesting to see how much more we've sold in 2019 versus 2018. Now, you guys know that from a trivia question a couple of weeks ago, you guys know how much we've gained valley-wide on average in equity, right? It's about 8% since 2018. So 2019 was a great year, especially if you're a seller. And if you bought at the beginning, you made 8% already, which is pretty darn sweet. And another reason to get out there and buy while the interest rates are low, because you know the equity is going to go up again this year. And that just makes sense, right? Buy when it's lower. So we sold 78,000, like 500-ish units in 2018. And that's just single family homes, okay? So not townhomes, condos, mobile homes, things like that. Just single family. So 78,460 is the exact number. In 2019, we sold 81,877 single family homes. So that's quite a bit. Now, this information is simply taken from the MLS, so this doesn't take into account any of the couple of handful of for sale by owners that have sold in that time frame, or things that sell off market, like family members to family members, things like that. So that's not taking those transactions into account. Isn't that insane? So what does that translate in terms of dollar value, or dollar volume, I should say? And this is the mind-blowing stuff, you guys. Like, this totally is such a cool trivia question. When you guys are having family dinner or sitting around the table, ask your family this, because I've done it a couple of times, and I guarantee their answers are going to be way lower. So in 2018, so we sold 78,468 single family homes. What did that equate to in terms of volume? Anybody have a guess? Guess, come on. Hey, JD. Anybody have a guess of what that money amount was, 2018? All right, nobody? 27 billion, with a B, 0.3. 27 billion. Like, unbelievable. Does that not blow your mind? So that's 2018 single family homes only. 2019, 30 billion, like 30.2. That's insane to me. So we're up, 3 billion single family homes year over year. Absolutely insane. If anybody tells you nobody's out there buying, they need to talk to me, and I'll share these numbers with them. So the grand total, if we were to include single family homes, condos, townhomes, mobile homes, all of that jazz, the grand total in 2018 was nearly 31 billion. And in 2019 was 34.2. Right, Lacey? I lost my mind. I was like, you get out of here. You got to be kidding me. But billions in the bees. I thought that was absolutely insane. So I've got a couple of questions. If anybody, again, if you're just popping in, I'm answering questions live. If you have any, I haven't gotten any yet. So I'm just going to roll through the couple of things that I have that some people have messaged me privately because they weren't able to make the live. And those are just 3 of them. So we'll be real quick here unless anybody else has anything that they'd like to ask. What's the first step in preparing to buy, and when should I take that step? So this question comes up a ton, and I have to tell you, you guys take it way too late. You guys are basically preparing yourselves when you should have already been prepared. And I've seen it I'm not going to say 865 times because many of those clients spoke to me well in advance and they were prepared well before they needed to be. But the number is pretty staggering. So a lot of people come to me and they're completely unprepared, which is fine, but they want to buy like next week. And in some cases we can do that, but is it in your best interest? Not always. So it's best about a year before you're thinking about moving to get with me. Let's chat. Let's talk about your goals. Let's talk about, what is this home going to solve for you? So we know how to prepare ourselves. We know what time frame we're dealing with. If you're not a cash buyer, if you don't have, oodles of cash flying out your pockets, you're going to need to get with a mortgage lender. A lot of people think, well, I'll call the lender the day before I want to make an offer. Not a good idea. I promise you, I have seen way too many people crying because they weren't prepared and they've got a lot of work to do. So your credit can be fantastic, but there are other things to do. There are other factors that go into preparing yourself to get the best rate and the best loan that fits your needs. So you've got to really start this stuff early, get your ducks in a row early. There's several, I won't go into it now, but there are several different steps that we'll go through about a year in advance to absolutely prepare you so that you are ready to hit the ground running. You can be more competitive, you have more buying power, and you're not out there crying with no home, basically. So start about a year before you think you need to start. Next question. Anybody before I get into the next one? Next question. Excuse me, it's a little dry here. Let me take a quick sip of tea. Is my earnest money non-refundable? I get that question a lot. Well, I don't want to put an offer in because I know I'm going to have to make, a couple $1,000s worth earnest deposit. And I don't want to lose that, Katie. I'm really not positive about what if the inspection doesn't pan out? What if it doesn't appraise? All that jazz. So a lot of people think that the earnest money is non-refundable. Once you get it, you're not getting it. Or once you give it, you're not getting it back. And that is not true. So the earnest money is there. It's your good faith money. And it's there just in case you decide you want to breach the contract. Then the seller gets that. So that's kind of a whole other ball of wax. We're not going to talk about that, but let's talk about the 3 contingencies that are built into the purchase contract that actually act as kind of like a safety net for buyers. This is really important. And actually, the Arizona purchase contract is really built to protect buyers. I mean, there's seller protection in there as well, but there's a lot of buyer protection. Sellers don't have the same provisions in the contract where they're able to cancel the contract like a buyer would. So let's talk about those 3 safety nets. The first safety net is going to be your inspection period. Unless there's something different written into your contract, that is typically a 10-day period. So it counts weekends. So let's just say you go under contract today. Today's Wednesday. Your day 1 of your inspection period is going to begin on Thursday. You've got 10 days to get all inspections done. We usually suggest like a general inspection, a termite inspection, depending on the age of the home and the location, a sewer scope. A lot of people get really burned on this. Let me tell you right now. They don't think they need sewer scopes, and a lot of agents out there are just not experienced enough to know what areas of town, what types of property that need these types of things. It can save you a boatload of money and a boatload of headache in the future to make sure that you do your diligence during this period. It's also wise to get a pool person out there to check the pool pump, depending on, some inspectors do it, but a lot don't do pool equipment. So that's really important to get an AC person, an AC tech out there to make sure that AC is running tip top. We've got a question here. So we'll get to that, Lacey. Also a roofer to go out and see the roof and see what's going on with that. So it's really important. If anything pops up during that period and you don't want to take the house, you're like, no, you know what? I don't even want to deal with it. I don't care if they fix anything. Then you can cancel, you get your money back. It's just like the thing never happened at all. So the inspection period, first safety net. The appraisal is the contingency, is the second safety net. So if this property doesn't appraise, if you get the appraisal back and this third-party appraiser that, it's the lender usually hires them or orders it rather, but it's like a round robin system, so there's no funny business going on. So it's a third-party opinion. If this comes back and your property doesn't appraise for what you've agreed upon, that's an opportunity to go back and negotiate with the seller or cancel the whole thing altogether, get your money back. It's like it never happened. The third contingency that's built into the contract is the financing contingency. So let's just say, hopefully not, but let's just say you're under contract and oh my gosh, you lost your job. Whatever happened, right? Lost the job. That will affect your ability to get financing, right? That is another contingency. You cancel the sale, you get a letter from your lender that says, hey, yo, lost the job, can't do it anymore. You get your money back. It's like it never happened. So super important to know those contingencies and those what I like to call safety nets. Lacey, let's take a look and see what you have to say here. I have two. I was told I should refinance after a year, but I don't remember why. Also, 5 years, is 5 years a good amount to wait or to sell and buy a newer place? That depends. I was told I have two. So you have two properties. You were told you should refinance after a year. Maybe to get your interest rate down and get your PMI off. Does that sound familiar? So if you purchase a home, you don't put 20% down. So typically my FHA people, they're not putting 20% down. Conventional people sometimes don't either. You're going to have private mortgage insurance. So my guess is maybe that's what it was. Oh, you have two questions. Sorry, I thought you said you have two houses. I was like, cool. So that's probably what it was to remove the PMI. We could talk about it offline, talk about your details and your specific situation, but that might be what it is. Since we are rising in value so much, I am hearing that advice from lenders. Is 5 years a good amount of time to wait? That depends on what's going on. Oh, yeah, PMI, probably it. That depends on what's going on in the market, Lacey. If you're gonna sell, typically, you wanna wait that 2 years so that you don't have to pay capital gains. I think it's, $250 a person, up to $250. You can make some income on for the sale of your house without having to pay the tax on the capital gains as long as you've owned that property and lived in it for the last 2 years. I believe that is, double check me with the CPA, but I believe that is the case. And that is why I always tell people, hey, 2 years in your home and then we can talk about things. We need to talk about what the market looks like. We need to talk about what your goals are. We need to talk about, hey, does it make sense to actually slap a tenant in this property and then go out and buy another primary residence, which is something I love doing. I actually have 4 properties. That's how my husband and I do it. We buy them because we're able to buy them with primary housing financing. So it's like, this is my primary home, so we pay lower interest rates and fees and whatnot than if we were buying an investment property. And we're not fraudulent. We move into the home. So we literally do live there for the amount of time that, we committed to living there per the loan requirements. And we pay a little bit less. We live there a couple of years. We put a tenant in that property, move on to the next. Yes, Lacey, get in touch with me. We can absolutely talk about it. And I think it's a great idea to begin your portfolio now in terms of investing in real estate. I mean, all the greats, right? All the great billionaires. Think of any super rich person or even relatively rich person that you can think of. I guarantee that they invest in real estate. Guaranteed. So get in touch with me, Lacey. We'll talk about it a little bit more. Anybody else have any other questions? All right, I got one more to share with you, and then I've got a couple of resources and links that I'll pop into either the comments or the caption or something like that after I get off that will really, really help you guys out, and I'll kind of explain what those are. Here's something I get a lot of, and it's funny because I come from New Hampshire, and back east things are so different in terms of real estate and selling. You sell with an attorney. You don't ever know what your closing date is until you're like right on top of it, from what I remember anyway. So we're kind of a mixed bag from people from all over the place and all over the country, right? Well, other places in the country have different real estate rules. So I understand where this question comes from, but I always think it's funny. So when do I have to move out of my house when selling? Here in Arizona, we decide on the closing date upfront with the initial contract. Now, yeah, is that negotiable? Totally negotiable. Can that change throughout the contract depending on what's going on? Absolutely can. But your closing date is your closing date is your closing date. And that's the day that you have to be moved out by. I usually tell my people, hey, do your best to get out the day before. That way you're not too stressed out the day of. You can kind of relax, maybe go in, sweep the place up a little bit. You want to make sure that you leave your mailbox keys, any keys that you have, for front door, back door, whatever it is, your clickers for the garage, all of that jazz, remotes for fans, all that stuff in a kitchen drawer all together. So that way when the buyer goes, they're all excited, right? They're like, we want to open doors, we want to do all this stuff. They have everything right there, and I'm not getting phone calls to call you to ask you where the stuff is. So just a little tip, you need to be moved out by closing day when you record, really. So let's just say you record with the county. So the way it works is everybody signs their documents prior to closing day, hopefully. Buyer funds on closing day, and then the title company records with the county at some point during that day. When the recording happens, transfer has happened. It is no longer your home. So that's why I always advise get out the day before, or a few days before or something like that, but definitely the day before. That way you're not stressed. You have a little bit of time to clean and stuff like that. Hey Jen, hey Allison. All right, any other questions before I go? Lastly, I'm going to leave you with some resource links. I'll pop it into the post here when I get done. And I'm going to leave you with a link for our Homebuyer class. Jen Duncan with Team Evo AZ does head that up. She does an amazing job. We've had a lot of mamas in that class. No obligation. There's no fee. It's just another group on Facebook, and you learn a whole bunch of stuff. So it's awesome. Also, the cheat sheet. So if you don't know what the cheat sheet is, and you're especially a first-time buyer, although it helps all buyers, okay? So you don't have to be a first-timer to get the cheat sheet. But for first-timers, it's like this, it's just like opening up a map. And now you know exactly where you're going and how you're gonna get there. So the buyer cheat sheet, super, super, super important, get that. What to do when I miss a mortgage payment. So you lost your job, a sickness in the family happened, stuff happens, right? So if you miss a mortgage payment, then your bank's gonna get angry, right? I've got a link for you to kind of walk you through what that looks like and different options and different roads that you can take to get it out of that, or to help with that. So I'll post that. And we also have some moving checklists. I have a 2-month plan, basically. It's all written out, and it's your moving plan, and that's all done for you. I'll post that link. We've got a couple of other little resources that go along with that link too, so I will post those. It was a pleasure talking with you ladies, and I thank you for watching. Have a good day. Bye, guys.